Welcome to another episode of Tech Talk Radio. I'm Andy Taylor.
I'm Shawn Weird.
I'm Slick.
I'm Matt Jones.
And I'm Justin Lemmy.
It's good to see everybody. I think this is the most we've had on a show in months.
Yeah, can you? Is there room for all of these people in this screen?
We're all fitting in here. Oh boy. Anyway, we were gonna have a guest today, and I'm kind of bummed because they weren't able to make it, and we were going to talk about UFOs.
I'm
kind of interested in that.
So here for that.
Yeah, I know. You were like the first one to chime in. Oh, I'm ready. I'm ready. The reason is we'll go ahead and talk about this. There's a guy named Luis Elizondo, and he's written a book. It's called Imminent. Thank you. What is it? Imminent inside the Pentagon's.
Show's over. Thank you all. Have a good day.
Andy, do you smell burnt toast?
What would that mean?
That would mean the stroke is real.
Oh man.
You were saying. We're trying to.
Thanks a lot, guys. Anyway, this guy Luis Elizondo has written a book called Imminent Inside the Pentagon's Hunt for UFOs. And I guess he's the former head of the Pentagon program investigating UAPs. I don't even know what those are. And he's been on Joe Rogan's show. And this woman who knows him, Teresa Tindell, was going to come on because he's going to be at the Rialto Theater coming up on the 3rd. And she knows him as a former director of the Maryland State MUFON chapter.
Mm-hmm.
What is MUFON? Anybody know?
I had that up on my screen. I did look that up in advance. Because if I can find it, keep
Muffin?
going.
UAP.
Mutual UFO Network.
Wow. All right.
Oh,
Wow. Okay. UFO.
and UAP is unidentified anomalous phenomena.
Interesting.
Oh, all right. Well, sounds like kind of cool. I really wanted to get her on the show, but just doesn't look like we were able to do that. Either way, we got us. So, how's everybody doing?
I like my flying saucers in purple.
And all right, here's the go around.
Oh no, I started something.
Here it is. Has anybody experienced a unidentified flying object?
Well, I tell you what, this one time I was out by the park
Mhm.
and I saw this bright light and they took me, man. They took me, I swear.
Yeah.
Don't ask any more questions.
You don't want to know what they did to me up there.
Was it bad?
It was bad.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it.
Did you like it?
No.
Well, that's a good answer. Okay.
This show is getting off to a weird start.
It
right now.
really is really bizarre.
Oh,
On your way out there in
I can't say that I have. I mean, I've seen a lot of weird stuff in the sky, trying chasing the northern lights and the space station, but it's usually something that can be explained or tracked, like a plane or space debris or satellites or whatever. But nothing in the extraterrestrial category, anyways.
You know, I kind of want. Did people talk about UFOs before Close Encounters of the Third Kind? You know, before the movie came out.
Well, I mean, you have to define UFOs, right? Because it's like historically, there is documentation of tribes and Indians with just depictions of stuff in the sky. So, what is that to them? That's a UFO, right? So, I'm sure that over the years, things have evolved, and you get those legends that turn into myths and things like that, right? So, they kind of get passed down over the years and turn into, stuff that spooks people.
Slick, have you ever experienced anything?
Well, I was going to say, I'm here in the Tucson metropolitan area. I'm going to assume that you and Justin may have heard of some people saying, because I've heard it multiple times over many years. There were 3 lights, and they moved in a manner that's unusual to, how airplanes fly. And there was a time I was staying far west of, let's say, Tucson, beyond the mountain over there. And, often
picture rocks, right?
Yeah, picture rocks, yeah. And off in the distance, I'm going to say southwest, there seemed to be some aerial vehicles, and I won't say three lights, but yeah, it could have been three lights that seem to be moving in a way I can't explain. I'm not going to say I ever saw a UFO, but because I remember somebody go, "Hey, come take a look," and I'm like, "Well, okay," but I'm just not sure. Have you not heard those stories? Because it's been, a lot of people around here have told it for many, many years.
I remember about 10 years ago driving on the 10, heading to California for a trip to visit the family. And it was over, I would say, between Phoenix and Tucson, just a string of lights. And, now people say the string of lights, and right away people say, oh, that's Starlink. That's the Starlink satellites. And that's how it's, but 10 years ago, they weren't doing that. And I remember seeing them and I thought, what the heck is that? And it was just like in a row. But then again, I guess it could have been satellites were up 10 years ago. So it's very possible.
I don't know.
Justin?
I've never personally had an experience with one.
Even up in Colorado?
Nope.
No.
No, I can't say I have.
I will say though that in my amateur radio days, right, the stuff that I do in ham radio, it's fun to tune in and listen to stuff that you don't necessarily know what it is, right? It's usually just garbled, but it sounds cool. So you could count that as I've probably heard alien stuff. But who here remembers doing SETI at home?
Oh yeah.
SETI was the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, right?
Correct.
Mhm.
Yeah. So one of my mentors who just recently passed away got me into SETI when I worked at Fox. So this would have been back in 2010. And I had it on any computer that I owned, and it was running 24/7 until they shut it down probably 4 or 5 years ago. And it was just cool to watch, right? And who knows what they did with the data? It got sent to Berkeley, and they analyzed it. But what did that mean, right? So maybe one day I'll get an email saying, "Hey, this piece of information that your CPU calculated was alien technology or something."
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Help me out with SETI, because I remember hearing about it, and it was, to me, it was you install a bunch of people installed software on the computer to assist with processing and searching of something. So how
basically think of it like crypto mining data from Berkeley off of satellites and radio telescopes. Like there was just a peer-to-peer data exchange. Your CPU was processing raw data from satellites in the gigahertz spectrums, and you could kind of watch it. It would tell you what chunks you were scanning. So it would tell you you're on this array and it's scanning in the 23 gigahertz spectrum, and it would just tell you it was scanning that. So
yeah, and there was just with all the different radio telescopes arrays out there, there's just so much data that we're pulling down. There was no way they would ever be able to do it themselves, even with a supercomputer. So that's why they created this app, and it was one of the. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think it was one of the first, if not the first, distributed cloud computing platform.
I would agree with that. Yeah, and it was very popular in the nerd community, and it was kind of fun to compete with your friends and say, "Hey, I've got this many chunks decoded or whatever it was. You have this many points," and it got people in trouble. So this was before crypto, right?
Right.
So you had people installing them on work servers and things like that. I actually got in trouble for putting it on some computers at work that had higher processing power at the time, and was using the company's power on the internet, whatever. But so it just was because you could get a higher score than your friends. And
yeah,
isn't it a shame that you got in trouble for doing that and not mining crypto?
I knew better than that with crypto.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing you mentioned, using the company's internet or whatever. Honestly, it really didn't require hardly any internet, because it would just go online, it would download a chunk of data, and then it would sit there and chew on that data for hours and hours and hours and hours. And then once it had its results, then it would just upload that back to Berkeley, and then it would download a new set of data. So it's not like you had to be connected to the internet at all times.
Wow. So you were actually helping the government and doing the research through different parts of the world, wherever you were and however you were able to connect.
Yep.
Yeah. So the SETI Institute still exists, right? So that part didn't go away. It's just this part of it, the funding ran out or whatever. So you can still go check out and do SETI and all that stuff. And there's actually another program that kind of an offshoot of that called HARP, where it's I don't remember what the acronym stands for, but it's another high frequency radio project that uses your CPU power, GPU power to scan.
High frequency active oral research program.
That one. So it's kind of the same thing.
They actually did something similar in Borderlands 3. When you got to a certain town in the game, they actually in game they had what looked like the standard arcade machine, and they told you when you started playing this game in a game, they were like, hey, just to let you know, this is not just a game. You are researching folded proteins.
Yes.
And the work that you're doing here. So now any gamer that played Borderlands 3, and even if they only played that for like 2 minutes, they're now listed on a research paper because enough people played and did that they actually managed to get the answers that they were looking for, doing all the simulated protein folding and things like that. I'm like, you guys, all you have to do is tap into the competitive nature of gamers. Like that's all you have to do. Like as Shawn put it out, like, be coming in being like, yeah, I bet that really awesome new PC. These are a number of pieces I've gotten decoded. How about you there, Johnny? And Johnny's like, well, dang it, I got to go get a new processor and catch up. Like, just tap into that competitive nature, and yeah, we'll get it taken care of for you.
Kind of wonder with the technology that we have and the satellites that have been put up, do you think that that's going to help in either communication or actually justifying that there could be intelligent life out there as an alternate world?
There's a couple of theories as to why we haven't, or if we have, why we haven't had sustained communication with any form of extraterrestrial. The couple of different theories. There's one that is the young universe theory, which the Milky Way is relatively a young galaxy in terms of the age of our universe. We are still kind of at the early lengths of how long this place is going to last. So it could just be through some quirks and flukes. We have just showed up first, and other biological life forms are still evolving, still catching up. There's also the Great Barrier Theory, which is as civilization becomes sufficiently technologically advanced, they have to try and pass through what they refer to as the Great Barrier and survive and move on towards interstellar exploration. The Great Barrier is basically you discover the power of the atom. Don't kill yourselves with it. Don't nuke your planet. And so far, no one has done that. And we're walking down the way to being like, time for that test of the Great Barrier that we're going to take an L on that one.
Well,
and the scariest one for me is the Great Silence, which is there are tons of other species out there. And right now we're basically doing the equivalent of like taking a megaphone and screaming into like downtown, I'm from Earth and my name is Bob. Here's my address. Here's the code to my front door. Here's how you find me in the neighborhood. We are telling everyone exactly how to find us. But the Great Silence theory is that all these other life forms that are out there, like there is one super predator species, and everyone is like, dude, shut up. He is going to find you. Like you are telling him how to get in the, shut up. They're going to show up and your planet's going to get turned into a marble.
All right, a marble. When it comes to movies, think about it. I mentioned Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which is a great movie. I mean, I think it still holds up today pretty much. But is there another movie that we're missing that maybe best highlights the search for extraterrestrial intelligence that maybe we're not even thinking about? I mean, Interstellar, would that be close to it, or Fire in the Sky, which a lot of people that was based on a story here in Arizona.
Yeah, that's like Justin just said. I was thinking about the same thing like what Matt was saying. Like, it only takes one Borg, just one.
No,
just the one.
What about the movie Contact?
With that is another good one.
And what's the other one that just came out recently with Amy Adams or whatever? It was this kind of the same style of Contact. It was something else.
And people said it was very similar.
Arrival.
Arrival.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then
But
you
see,
can
now
also
here's the thing. But here's I wanted to mention this. My favorite theory on all this is, obviously technology has increased, and we start to see more and more of these quote unquote sightings of UFOs or potential aliens. I think my favorite theory is all of these other alien species out there they're just funneling into the arena and getting their front row seats because we're about to blow ourselves up and they just want to get the best view possible.
Aren't you cheery?
I mean, I agree with him. I'm sorry. And there's the one of the other things, two things. One, looping back to when we were talking about the movies, I'm gonna go real old school. I'm gonna go for the 1951 version, The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Oh,
Thought you were
yeah.
going there. Yep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Not the
One
Keanu
of
Reeves one? You
No.
don't know?
nope, the OG
1951?
1951, the original version of The Day the Earth Stood Still, where we had somebody land and they're like, "We're here to help," kind of, because you guys are screwed, man.
Wait,
Like,
what was the other one? There was a movie with a dog. Do you remember the dog was walking around with a human head? And that's when they said, okay, there's something wrong here. Pierce Brosnan was in it. It was a
oh,
huge
Mars
cast.
Attacks.
Mars Attacks.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
the one.
That
Mars
was the one I
Attacks
thought
with,
about. Yeah.
with Jack Nicholson playing like 18 different roles in that movie.
And Glenn
I
Close
remember
is in that.
I remember watching that in high school, and I was in Navy JROTC in high school, was the elective I basically lived in. And we just we had to pause the movie and stop when we saw Jack Nicholson's his army jacket when he was one of his general characters, because there's a rule that they're always in Hollywood, if you're portraying somebody in a military uniform, there always has to be something wrong.
Right. Yeah.
It
Really?
cannot be a true, entirely
Mhm.
accurate uniform. There always has to be something wrong so that people can't just be like, "Oh, I wear that and I can walk on base." His army jacket had the same ribbons that my cadet JROTC uniform had on, because they used Navy Junior ROTC ribbons. We're all just suddenly like, "Wait a minute, that looks like a participation ribbon."
He's
My
a
God, it
general.
is. Look, there's the unit citation ribbon. I got that on mine. Like,
It's
but
funny to me that you mentioned that because I got in trouble for wearing a general's hat. It's like big time.
no,
Didn't you used
Mars
to work on the
Attacks is
base?
Yeah, I lived on a military installation. I'm a military brat, and I was wearing it because I got it in a secondhand store. I got my sponsor. I got my second stepfather in big trouble because I refused to take it off. It's like, well, you can take off the hat or we can take off your stripes. Pick one.
All right. So if you want to attend this event, Luis Elizondo, the author of this book, he looks pretty serious. Looks like a very serious guy. Imminent inside the Pentagon's hunt for UFOs. It's going to be at the Rialto Theater tomorrow, as a matter of fact. So you can get more information about that. We're going to have a serious talk about UFOs. I honestly enjoyed it. I thought that was pretty good. All right.
Don't forget about to serve man, by the way, guys. That's the other warning one I needed to
That's the
remind you of.
the Twilight Zone episode. Do y'all remember that one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, Justin has to say, okay,
Look,
you've got to watch
Justin,
that
you
one
haven't-
episode, Justin. I can't tell you, but you got to watch it.
Oh, you haven't seen it, Justin?
I'm not into Twilight Zone or Black Mirror or anything like that.
Oh,
No, but
I
this
love
one
Black
episode
Mirror.
you have to see.
Black Mirror was great too.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I'm waiting for him, Charlie Booker to put out a brand new season of that. Shawn, did you see any of those?
No. So I'll have to watch.
Why don't you two get together like this weekend?
Seriously.
How are we going to do this viewing party on Zoom?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah. All right, I'll tell you what. We'll take a break. We come back. We've got a guest that I do believe we're going to have on the show. So again, we're talking about a camera they've developed. He's been on the show before, so that'll be good. I know that'll be a lot of fun. And with both Shawn and Justin, with the broadcasting background, it should be interesting to see what he's going to tell us about this brand new camera. I'm Andy Taylor.
I'm Shawn DeWeird.
I'm Slick.
I'm Matt Jones.
And I'm Justin. Let me find us on the web at techtalkradio.com. We'll be right back.
Some months ago, we were blessed to have Richard Newman from Sub 2R on the show. And Sub 2R at the time, it put out this amazing green screen that kind of changed the whole process. And you may have seen the interview. It's available up on our website at techtalkradio.com. But Richard had kind of teased a little bit that they were working on a brand new camera design. And when somebody tells you that, you say, well, wait, you've got so many cameras out there on the market. How is yours going to be different? Well, when we all got a chance to see Richard pop into our screen here and the quality of the camera, we all kind of stepped back a little and said, wow, it's what they have developed at Sub2R. And we're happy to have Richard Newman on the show again. Richard, it's good to talk to you.
Thank you for having me back. I really love being here. So it's great. And of course, you're just going to have to hit mute and kick me off because I'm going to blather about our camera like crazy. So,
well, the camera is neat because it speaks for itself. I mean, we look at the quality that we're getting off the camera. It's pretty amazing.
it really is what we've set out to build from day one, which is to give people a professional broadcast quality, but with the ease of use of a webcam. And we do not like to be called a webcam because we're not. I mean, that gives people the idea that, we're a $50 or $200 teeny tiny sensor, right? We're not. We built this camera using a Sony IMX294 image sensor, which is a micro four thirds sensor. For you guys in broadcast, that's a much bigger sensor.
Yeah.
Not quite cinematic yet, but for what we're doing, it's amazingly huge. It's like 16 times bigger than what you find anywhere else. Allows us to use micro four thirds glass, which I should hold it up. This is it. This is all the bigger it is.
Oh, wow.
Not big at all.
Yeah.
No, little teeny tiny guy.
Is it front heavy with that lens on it, or does it have like a mounting bracket to hold it on to a monitor? Or...
Thank you for asking that question. It's got 2 quarter-20s on the bottom, which allow you to adjust the center of gravity depending upon how heavy a lens you put on. Because some glass is really heavy, some is really light, so you have a chance to adjust the balance. We have 3 of those on the top, so you can also hang it from above. We also have rack mount grooves. You can't see them too well, but you've got rack mount grooves on the side, and you have rack mount grooves on the bottom, which means that you can hang this thing and mount this thing from a gazillion different directions.
In developing this camera, Richard, you're obviously were looking for a solution for maybe a something you had not seen on the market.
Yes.
And what was that?
So what we saw, and I think Justin, you're a Twitch streamer, right?
No, Matt is.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, wrong box. Well, we started out with building a camera for Twitch, and what we saw is when people got tired of a webcam, the next thing they did is they moved up to a DSLR.
Yep.
And DSLRs are complicated, they're cumbersome to set up, they're expensive by the time you get all the fake batteries and all the other stuff you have to do. And they're really not easy to use. I'll be honest. I've got a DSLR that we use for, behind the scenes shoots. And the first thing I do is put it on auto because I will never learn all of the commands in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we realize that that's kind of who our audience is. I mean, you really don't want to become an expert camera person. That takes years of study and a lot of knowledge. So the thing that makes a webcam great is that, you plug it in, you turn it on, it works. But the quality, you'll never get there with the teeny tiny sensors that they use. So we set out to build a camera that was based on larger format image sensor, larger format glass, and then make that as easy to use as a webcam and then keep the price down to where it's reasonable and it's comparable. And we went with micro four thirds because when you move up to a DSLR, you find that if you have a Sony camera or a Canon AE camera, only Canon AE lenses will work on it.
Mm.
And you can get lens adapters and some work and some don't, but
yeah,
that's a problem. So the idea was go with micro four thirds. because Micro Four Thirds is an industry standard. And while I will tell you that, like anything, universal is not universal. Every lens has its quirks. We learn the hard way. But we support the basic power functions of Micro Four Thirds lenses. And this gives the end user the opportunity to select from a massive amount of glass that's out there at a really reasonable price.
Shawn, I'm thinking, working in the environment that he's in and doing a lot of sports, would this camera work well in some of that high sports movement, high action, or is it best suited for interviews? Or
it's a 4K 60 camera. You can put it anywhere. And the advantage of the SDI output is you've got, miles basically of distance you can get between you and the camera. So I want to wrap up on the lens real quick, because a lot of people ask this. The lenses are interchangeable.
Nice.
That's the point we wanted to get to. The other thing we learned is that people need power lenses. They need power focus, they need power aperture. Our original camera that came out was a manual focus. And if the camera is too far away, they can't reach the lens to focus it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're always doing, this kind of a thing, and that probably was the biggest drawback. I love our production camera, but focusing it's a pain. So going with Micro Four Thirds allows you to have on desktop control of focus and zoom and aperture. But now the fun begins, because on the output side. So this is a development camera. And what you'll see is you've got an HDMI output here. You have a USB, did I get it right? Yes, you have USB output. We actually have video out over USB. We have dual, on the Studio 460, we have dual 12 gig SDI outputs. Plus we have a Genlock input. So if you're doing multiple cameras, you can Genlock them. And then this sweet little thing. This is called an SFP Plus cage. And the SFP Plus cage allows you to buy little off-the-shelf modules. I see Matt nodding his head, and convert the video output into absolutely anything you want that's off the shelf. So if you wanted this to be optical output and have a 40-kilometer range on it, you can get a module that slides in the back. If you have a Square One that has HDMI and you go, I really want to upgrade to SDI, you can buy an SDI converter, or vice versa. That's really the advantage of these SFP cages. You can NDI, IP, you can get a converter that makes the output of the camera into anything you want. And well, not anything you want, anything that off-the-shelf converters make. I got to be careful, because somebody tag me on it, right?
Yep.
So that's what I think is a really cool feature about the camera, is that you're not stuck with a video output. And all of our outputs are, depending upon the video format, is a 4K 60 output. You can, the camera is a native 12-bit color depth. Depending upon your output, it usually drops to 10. But inside, all of our processing is done in 12-bit color. The other thing that's important for broadcasters is that we have virtually no latency. So the most you will be is 1 frame behind reality, or 16 milliseconds. So
wow,
there's all the processing we do. Matter of fact, we don't. Right now, I'm doing virtually no processing on the image itself. This is basically the raw image as it comes off.
So does the processing happen on board, or does it utilize the computer that is connected to process?
No, all the processes happen on board. We run it. This is an FPGA based camera. There's no ASIC on board, which means that all of the video pipeline is software based. And so you can upgrade it, you can modify it. Our dream down the road is to make it modular, so that you actually have access to parts of the IP, the image processing pipeline, and can make changes yourself. So if you want to, for instance, adjust the color converter at the end, if you want to Add in, you don't like the way we do demosaicing, you can implement your own demosaicing. Our goal of this camera was to make it an open architecture, not open source, open architecture. Because we believe that building a platform for people to innovate is where this is going to be very powerful. I'm willing to bet we are the only camera company in the world that if you crack the case, etched on our motherboard, it says, if you've come this far, explore, innovate, and create. And we actually give you places to hook into the major components on the motherboard. And we give you the knowledge base and the tools to play.
Oh, wow.
So,
That's
I mean,
cool.
we started out being R&D guys, right? Engineers exploring, and we needed to build a platform. So this is basically a dev kit shoved in a box to make it look like a beautiful camera. One more feature. Sorry, Andy, I gotta just.
Yeah, no, we want to know.
So, on the back, there's a little bank of square connectors.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Yeah. So we offer a external I2C COM port, which means that an I2C, Andy, so you look quizzical. I2C is kind of a universal language that electronic components talk to each other. A very simple, slow communication protocol. We also have a PTO, power takeoff, on the back as well, 5 volts. So it's available to drive certain things. So if you wanted to control, for instance, our green screen, you don't have to have a separate control panel for the green screen and for the camera. The camera can control the green screen. Our goal again down the road is it can also control the lights in the room. It can also control a gimbal. It can also control a cat feeder. We don't care. That's the beauty of I2C, is it doesn't really care. You just say, this address is this device. Here's the registers. Here's how you write to it, and you can send commands back and forth to the host, command panel, the control panel. So you have one point of entry that allows you to control what's going on in the room. And if you carry this to the extent that we want to, you think of auto exposure. Auto exposure just changes the aperture and the exposure on the camera itself, but does nothing to the outside environment. What if auto exposure could adjust your lights?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That's a good thought. I like that.
Now, when you talk about the single person studio, which is really where we're focusing, which is what everybody is right here and now. Every one of us is a single person studio. We've designed this not just to be a camera, but be this focal point of a single person studio and make it easy to use. So you don't have controls for lights, you don't have controls for the green screen, you don't have controls for this, you don't have all this other stuff laying around. One control panel, it all goes through the camera and allows you to talk to the rest of the world. And that's kind of our vision of where we're going with this thing, which is what makes it exciting. We also put all those same connections inside the camera. So if you want to add your own things and you want to have that tie in to the camera, you can actually hook into the I2C COM port inside the camera on the motherboard itself. There's also power takeoff on the motherboard itself. So,
wow. What was that moment like when you got it together and you looked at it and you said, this is amazing? Like, we're looking at it, looking at the quality. And for our listeners that are listening on the radio, if you go to our website, you'll be able to see the quality we're talking about.
So it's been a long journey. We've been on this path for 12 years. And, we could spend hours and probably shots of tequila talking about all the disasters that we've faced, from exploding motherboards to a vendor promising a $40 part that ended up costing us almost $1,300. It's just every mic dropping engineers, taking everything with them, everything you can imagine. But this has always been our dream. And seeing the video coming off of our camera was that moment, when we said we did it, we pulled it off, we did what we had set out to do, which is not a simple task. And I remember us sitting around going, when we first started this, going, how hard can it be to build a camera? And we had the pontificating trolls who said, wow, you could build a camera for $40 in parts. What are you guys talking about?
Yeah.
You can if you slap a module on an Arduino, maybe. But if you really want to build a camera and you start from the ground up, it is not an insignificant task. I mean, the last statistic I saw is Apple has 800 W2 engineers doing nothing but working on the camera for their iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
We laugh. We built our camera for what they spend on coffee and bagels. Somewhere the shareholders of Apple, the CFO of Apple, ought to be really pissed.
Yeah, I bet.
So marketing, that's got to be a chore as well, because the next step is getting it into either retail or getting it into the hands of the person that wants to buy it. How will you do this? Is it going to be through, somebody goes to the website, they can order it, or will they be able to walk into a high-end camera store or a Best Buy and be able to buy it?
So we found with the green screen, and the green screen was a great way of understanding our customer base. It was a kind of a fun experiment. Who's interested? Who's buying this thing? It wasn't the people we thought were going to buy it. What drives people to us to buy that are experts in the field using it, going, wow, this just was like, why didn't I think of this? This is so mind-blowing. So our plan is to build a small set of the cameras. We've got most of the parts in stock right now. And to get those in the hands of people who have two qualifications. One, they understand a camera. So they understand and can talk about why this camera is different, why it's different than a webcam, why it's different than a DSLR, why it's the kind of camera, if you are going to elevate your stream, you want. I mean, they just, somebody who sells cosmetics is not our kind of influencer, and not necessarily every gamer could be an influencer. We're really looking for those people who understand and can convey to their base what it is. And then somebody who has, obviously, people who have a respected following. Doesn't mean you have 1 million people, but it means that people come to you and seek advice. So there's a guy named Stephen Washer, who's the visible authority, I think, to quote me on. And he teaches people how to take what they do professionally and become a video blogger about it. And while he doesn't have millions of followers, a lot of people seek out his videos, and a lot of people seek him out and say, hey, I'm semi-retired, or I got laid off from this big firm because I'm 40 and they won't hire anybody over 30 anymore. I'm, run out my clock. But yet I still want to get the word out there, and I want to be a professional. How do I do this? And so he was one of our toughest converts, and now he loves what we do. And it's people like that we're seeking. But honestly, we have a larger challenge before we get to marketing.
And what is that?
Just before the pandemic, up into the pandemic, we were founder funded. We were self-funded. It was, I joke, but slaughtered 401ks and liquidated savings and every body part we could sell on Craigslist, right? And
you still have both your kidneys, right?
Yeah, I'm out, man. We hang up, I'm going to dialysis again, so don't laugh. we found a sole investor. I had 450 doors slammed in my face, and we found a sole investor, and absolutely looked to be the perfect combination. I love this guy, by the way. Super nice guy. We weren't even talking about investing. He said, "Hey, just out of curiosity, you guys looking to raise money?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I said, "How much?" And he just threw out a number. And he said, "Okay." And we got half of it, which carried us through the pandemic and got us to this camera. It got us the green screens. It got us the mounts. It got us the glasses in production. I mean, it was fabulous. And it came time for the second half, and they're bankrupt.
Ah.
Mm.
Oh man.
So that kind of was a shock to us,
Yeah.
because we kept asking them. They said, "Oh, we'll take care of you. No, don't worry about it." So we cut everything, absolutely everything, except the bare essentials. It's down to the four of us again and one engineer. And the four founders, again, keeping it afloat as best we can, while we seek for a replacement. And that becomes the challenge for us. The difference is we have a product that's amazing. We're ready to go into production. And it's finding that person that says, or that investor that says, "Hey, I'm willing to pick up the pieces and run with it." That's a huge challenge for any startup. Hardware is tough. Tell them you build a camera, nobody wants to talk to you. But I only have 200 more to go, and then I catch up with the last number, so I'm doing pretty good.
Oh man. So are you planning to go to CES for 2025? And obviously too, they have the exhibitor showcase where people get out there and they show they're good looking for investors. So I'm wondering.
Yeah, they have that investor out. I may, that's a good idea. I wasn't thinking going to CES. We usually go to NAB,
Right.
which is right after
Yeah.
CES. Because NAB is more like down
That's the focus.
Yeah. But I should look into CES. I haven't been to CES in a couple of years. So I had to look into what that might entail to go into their innovative out there. What do they call it?
What do they
Startup Alley or something like
yeah.
that.
Yeah. It's something along that line.
Yeah. That's actually where Ring. That's where I met the guys from Ring who did the door cam.
Oh,
Right.
that's right.
They were there, and I looked at that going, "Well, that's kind of interesting. Wonder what'll ever happen with that."
Well, the other thing to think of when you're talking about trying to find potential investors, you had said, kind of at the start that you were looking at creating this for, looking at streamers and creating a more professional feel for those streams. So you could also look at going to something like TwitchCon. I mean, you have big name streamers who have more money than frankly any of us are ever going to see in our lifetime. And it would, I mean, I off the top of my head, there's a guy, he's now, what is it, Streamer Sensei. I used to follow him for when I was starting out for all my tips, things like that. But there are people like that who would happily slap their name to be associated with something like that out the gate. Be like, "Oh, you need X amount of dollars? Well, okay, let me call my finance guy." But if you go to something like TwitchCon, then you're getting in front of all those people.
Yeah.
Yeah, we usually do TwitchCon. We did TwitchCon last year. And that was a blast. It was in Las Vegas, and we had tons of fun. And just the thing that blew people away there is when I put a battery pack on the green screen, and one of the guys picked up the green screen and walked down the aisle with it, going, "Oh my God, it just follows me wherever I go," And we had the cameras on display there. But it was kind of a weird layout. They hadn't done Vegas before, so.
Right.
But
Well, I'm looking at this, Richard, and I'm just thinking, again, I'm blown away by it. We talked about a little bit about it last time we talked, and I know that we'll talk again too. I am again excited about this. Can people purchase this now, or is this going to be coming up?
So that will be coming up. What I do right now is I'm taking reservations. They just go on our website and you can reserve it. It's a no obligation reservation, but what it does is it gives me a list. And it's very important for us because when I sit in front of an investor, I go, look, we're not really promoting this. And I've got a list of, 100 or 200 people that are lined up ready to buy this thing right now.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the approach we've taken. We're always very cautious. It's an interesting group. We don't like to go out and pontificate, in a marketing, spew and then not produce anything. We're the other way around. We want to have a finished product and say, okay, now we're ready to go. A lot of people say, we take pre-orders. I personally don't want to do that till I know 100% I'm going to ship you a product.
Yeah.
And
there's been
too many
many
people have
bad
gotten
stories
burned.
about that.
Yeah. And it's just not it's not how we work. It's not how we want to build that reputation. I'd rather have one that we waited and when we were ready to sell, when you commit, I'm sending you a product.
Mm-hmm.
Great stuff. Richard, give us the website address. Our listeners can get more about the green screen and of course the cameras and and getting on this list because I might want to put my name on that list as well because this is great quality. And for broadcast,
I just put my name on the list.
Did you? Yeah.
Oh, just put my name on the list.
Yeah.
So it's www.sub2rsub2r.com.
So my question. So we do a lot of remote stuff at the university, right? We have sports venues spread out all across campus. We use a lot of fiber. If I connect to this via a pair of single mode fiber, what is my connectivity to the device? Is it just video coming back? How do I control remotely from the user end just on a pair of fiber?
So that's an interesting question. You can get video and audio because the camera has dual onboard mics. Plus, it's got an audio jack in the back, so you could essentially put a mic onto it if you wanted to. Control is over USB, but what we've done is we built a module that creates a mesh network. So then the camera becomes part of its own network, and you can daisy chain these things together. And so you can control, 100 cameras from a single location all over a wireless mesh network. And then you would just be running cable. You'd just be running either fiber or SDI back to wherever your editing station was.
Okay, that's a good answer. So another question is, what formats for network transportation are you guys supporting? Are you guys going to support SRT, RIST, NDI, any of those on board?
So the Square One supports a standard HDMI. I think it's HDMI one, whatever the current one is. And then we support SDI. If you want another format, you would have to go for an SFP module to convert to an NDI or an IP or whatever. And those are readily available. They're about $300, usually 300, 350, something like that. Some are cheaper. Depends on how much logic has to, how much conversion has to take place on board.
Great stuff again, Richard. The website address for our listeners, once again, to get signed up, get all the info they need.
www.sub2r.com. And then, if anybody out there has questions, just info@sub2r.com, drop me an email. I respond as fast as possible. And you will get a response from me, not from an AI bot or some call center in some random part of the world. It'll be me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on Tech Talk Radio. Great stuff, and looking forward to seeing this continue to develop.
Thank you, everyone, for your hospitality, and see you again soon.
Cool.
Thank you, sir. All right.
So during the break, I was just spewing information about that camera right from the interview.
We were talking about
I could talk about that all day long, but Andy told me I had to wrap it up. So So back to so let's shift gears and talk about drones because everybody knows I love drones.
Yeah, you're the
Um,
drone guy.
There's been no update to the Anti-Drone Act, right? We talked about how there was a bill in the House that got passed to ban drones from China and specifically DJI. Well, we talked 2 shows ago about their new drone, the Air 3S, the DJI Air 3S.
Mm-hmm.
The U.S. Customs and Border Protection is currently blocking imports of that drone.
Oh my God.
Man,
They say the action stems from concerns about forced labor practices, and some other, technology-based concerns. I think, like I said, I guess I mentioned before, I think DJI was cramming in as many new models of drones as humanly possible.
Yeah.
Wait,
Probably
so
at
does
the
this mean that I can put my drone that's almost brand new, I can put it up on eBay for like a premium right now?
I bet once if they pass the Anti-Drone Act, people are going to be flocking to places like eBay and other third party resellers to buy existing drones. So hold on to them. But
Yeah.
if you can get the newer ones in, great. But yeah, so
I know
it'll
that
be interesting to see how the drone market goes forward here.
they had told me at Best Buy that because I went in and I was like, "Where's their DJI?" They used to have a display and it was gone. I was like, "Where's your display?" And I said, "Oh, is it in advance of?" He said, "No, we're just moving it." And then the next time I had gone in, they had put the display back up, but they had no drones in there. And he told me that the Air 3S was going to be coming in, but that was supposed to be October 9th. And I've not been back to see if they're actually carrying it yet. So there's a good possibility that, according to what Shawn is saying, they probably don't even have them.
Yeah, I don't know. From what I could just quickly Google and find out, I'll have to do some more research on it. But right now, it seems like they're not being allowed to import it right now.
All right, we wanted to talk about something I showed on television on Fox 11 this past week. It's funny because Tyler Butler, who was the host that is hosting the segment, the one thing he said at the very end of it that made me kind of cringe a little, he said, very pricey because it's $500. But what it is, you may have seen the commercials with Shaquille O'Neal and his mom, Lucille, and they're talking about preserving priceless memories, which is a great ad campaign. It's the Epson Fast Photo 680W. And I don't know, all of us have had scanners. I think back in the early 90s, I bought a scanner. It was a Microtech SCSI scanner. It cost me about $1,300 back then because at the time that's what you used. And I didn't scoff at it because I needed it for my graphics business that I was doing at the time. Well, this is a different type of scanner, not a flatbed scanner. It looks like a little printer, and you just like you would feed paper and you feed the photos in, and coordinating with your smartphone or your PC, you hit the scan button and it scans the photos about 2 seconds per photo.
Oh, that's really fast.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So, and I've been playing around with YouTube and Snapchat and TikTok, and so I thought, oh, I'll do a video on this one, and I did, and Shawn saw it, and unfortunately, I cost Shawn $500.
I haven't bought it
What?
yet because I have to talk to Caitlin about it.
Oh,
But so you guys, I've talked about this before. I did this massive photo and video archive for my family, right? All throughout COVID, 2019 through COVID. And the one thing I was struggling with, and the thing I haven't tackled yet, is if I showed you the other side of my room, the basement down here, I have a few cardboard beer crates full of years and years and years and years and decades worth of 4x6s.
Oh man!
Without the negatives. So the negatives got destroyed, got lost, got thrown away. So I just have the 4x6s. Now, it's a painstaking process. I have the Epson V600, which is a fantastic scanner, right? But I can only fit about 4 in there at a time. And when I'm scanning at 800 DPI, it takes 4 to 5 minutes per 4. And then I got to open it, take them out. I get fingerprints on the glass. Like it's a big pain.
Yeah.
Andy sent me a 1-minute video of this thing spitting out 8 or 9 pictures in about 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So I could just stack them in there and let it run.
Yeah.
It's going to go. Like I was immediately said this. I have to have this for this archive project I'm working on
Now, if you're
because
if you're
it's going to go great.
if you're doing them on the computer or you're doing it on your smartphone, the cool thing, Shawn, is you can actually, in just before you hit start scan, you can tag them. So you can tell it this is from 1948, this is from 1949. This photo was taken in the summer. You could tag it. This is, the Weird family, or Caitlin's family, or
Right. That's one of the big things that I've been struggling with is who puts the data in.
yep, and
Right.
that's
The metadata doesn't get there by itself.
Yeah.
So I'm adding that stuff in manually when I'm, I bulk it, right? So it's like I have this folder from 1980 and I'm telling it this is these files, these ones I'm scanning are this 1980, this event, these people are in them. And I'm typing all that in while I'm scanning.
Yeah.
So this is like this is relatively new. I've never seen this before. I would have searched for this. But
the only thing
obviously the faster you do it, the lower the DPI, right? It says it'll scan up to 1 photo per second at 300 DPI. That's pretty low for archive.
Yeah.
But it says it
will
can do
go
up to
to
1200 DPI. So
it won't go to 12, it'll go to 6. At least on the app that I use, and maybe on the PC app it's different. I don't know. But yeah, it only showed me 3 and 6 as far as a scan. So maybe you can slow it down and maybe get a higher DPI. But it's
just from the B&H photo review, it says optical resolution 600 DPI, max resolution 1200 DPI. So
that's even better.
but it can do 1 photo per second at 300 DPI. Now, if you're just doing it for like uploading them for people to look at on the web, that's more than enough.
Oh yeah. You don't need to go 6. You can go 300 and they look fine. I sent them to my kids and just to see what they would say, because my daughters are in them, and my daughter sent me a note back saying, I can't get my eyes off Dad's mullet.
Oh, you still have that there.
I had the mullet back then. Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I encourage anybody that's doing any sort of photo archiving, look at this, and it's on sale a little bit right now on B&H.
So come on, Shawn. Just you don't ask for permission, just forgiveness. Come on, you can do it. Come on.
Mhm.
That you don't know.
This
You
is
don't know.
why-
Am I the
Caitlin
only
very well.
divorced guy on the program today? Am I
It's
the
the single
And I
guy
wonder
on the
why.
show. The single
Again.
guy on the show that said that.
Didn't we have a tagline for one of the shows a few months back? Was me saying I've only had to make that mistake once.
Yeah.
Now to,
Yeah,
now to be fair, I have impulse purchased on the show before,
Uh-huh.
and Caitlin was the recipient of that, so maybe
Oh,
I can get
there
away
you
with
go.
something because it was the Udi that I got. Because Matt was like, "Get the Udi," and I went online and bought it immediately. So I am a online impulse buyer, so I have to be careful.
We're
Yeah,
coming up to
speaking-
November. Before we take a break, who's getting the Microsoft sweater this year? Are they going to do a new one?
I don't know, but I will probably buy it
right now.
It's going to be hard to beat last year's with the Windows XP background.
Oh, speaking of the Windows XP background, they actually just re-released or just released a 4K upscaled version of, what do they call it? Is it Bliss? I think that's what
Bliss, yeah.
Yeah, they released a 4K version of Bliss that you can download now for Windows 11 that will fit 4K monitors and everything.
I still have the tag from that sweater, just happening to be sitting on my desk. So
Oh, that's cool.
Matt was looking that up. Did you see anything, Matt?
I see something in the Xbox Gear Shop, but I don't see the official Microsoft one yet.
They usually put them out by November 1st. So we'll have to hope that we'll have to take another look next week.
Well, I definitely found what I'm going to buy for my own ugly Christmas sweater that somebody made on their own is Satan's helper himself, Clippy.
Clippy.
It's Clippy sitting there on a stack of documents, and instead of like, would you like help, it says Happy Holidays with the little okay like right underneath it. So I'm gonna pick that up and just give tons of people PTSD flashbacks. That's gonna be fun.
We should
Clippy,
sell
elf on the shelf.
Elf on the Shelf. We should sell shirts with Slick as the elf on the shelf and put him in different situations. I think that would be great.
that might get us
That one-
banned.
I want the smallest elf hat.
Why are we doing that for Christmas? That's more of like a Halloween thing. We want to scare children.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We come back. More of Tech Talk Radio. A listener question. We'll see if we can get to that one real quick. I'm Andy Taylor.
I'm Shawn DeWeird.
I am Slick.
I'm Matt Jones.
And I'm Justin. Send us an X at Tech Talk Radio. We'll be right back.
So during the break, we were taking a look at the listener questions, and we have Bill Rancho from Mirage, California.
Oh, Rancho Mirage. We used. That's where we started.
sorry.
Yeah.
Bill
I'm
Rancho.
not from over there.
Bill
So
Rancho in Mirage.
I'm from the Midwest. That Rancho, there's not. Unless it's a Mexican restaurant, there's nothing called
Gates'
Rancho over
dad
here.
lives out there in Rancho Mirage. Yes.
Mr. Mirage, we have your answer.
He asks, I'm tired of trying to type into my iPhone with that little on-screen keyboard. One of the reasons I missed my BlackBerry is that there was a actual physical keyboard that would easily connect and give me a keyboard.
Yeah.
He said he would carry his desktop computer keyboard with him, but it would be cumbersome. Well,
Get a bigger
Bill?
iPhone.
He wrote ha
Mr.
in there. I
Mr.
think-
Mirage, we have your answer.
he asks, I'm tired of trying to type into my iPhone with that little on-screen keyboard. One of the reasons I missed my BlackBerry is that there was a actual physical keyboard that would easily connect and give me a keyboard.
Yeah.
He said he would carry his desktop computer keyboard with him, but it would be cumbersome. Well,
Get a bigger
Bill?
iPhone.
He wrote ha in there. I think that's a laugh too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, yeah,
He
any
can-
Bluetooth, right?
yeah, any Bluetooth keyboard will work.
I mean, they've got a
Um,
couple that are
They
like
even
super
they even
small
have
that
some
fold
that
up.
connect to the Lightning adapter or the USB-C for the new phones. If you don't want to have
Yeah.
a battery-powered one, you
I
can
like
turn your
the,
you can turn your phone sideways. Look, if you're looking for ones that are going to be more ergonomical, like get the ones that you can look at the ones they have for the iPads.
Right.
They have them out there. So
The Logitech K480 is kind of cool. It's got a
Mhm.
little groove. You can use it with a tablet or
Ooh.
a smartphone. That one's kind of nice. And you could switch between 3 Bluetooth devices. So that's cool. But I want to check out, and
This
I
thing
think
looks
you
cool.
just did a highlight of one. I want to check this out. Clicks. It actually, so your phone snaps into it.
Yeah.
And this gives
It
you
looks
like a
blue. It looks like a BlackBerry.
yeah,
if
exactly like.
if he's talking about missing the BlackBerry keyboard specific, I think Clicks. I'm
Oh,
looking
yeah.
at this right now. Clicks is definitely the way to go. Your phone will snap in there, and you'll have the same old school feel of that BlackBerry keyboard with like the physical pressable buttons.
And-
But a concern someone would have with that is like, well, am I going to lose the other features with this case? But I'm seeing like you're still having MagSafe is built in
Yeah.
there. It's got pass-through USB, so you're still able to transfer your data. Like you get all that space on your screen that normally where your keyboard like comes up, you get
Right.
all that back because you have the physical keyboard. So your screen looks like 2 times the size now. So that might be the way to go.
Yeah.
Little pricey though, aren't
And
they?
It's yeah, it looks like a little pricey,
Yeah.
about
So it-
140 to 160,
Yeah.
All right.
depending on the model of iPhone.
Clicks.tech is the website address. Man, I'm glad we all got together. You know, it was weird. I would love to have done the UFO thing, but I had a lot of fun with that. So hopefully our listeners did as well, and maybe we learned some stuff. At least we can look up that info on that book. So that's it for this week's Tech Talk Radio. I'm Andy Taylor.
I'm Shawn DeWeird.
I am Slick.
I'm Matt Jones.
And I'm Justin Lemmy. Find us on the web, techtalkradio.com. Have yourselves a great week. See ya.